On May the 29th of 2018, Texas couple Nicholas Shaughnessy and Jacqueline Edison, both in their late teens, were arrested for plotting to murder the former's parents in order to collect his inheritance and life insurance money. Theodore Shaughnessy, aged 55, was fatally shot in his Travis County home on March the 2nd. His wife, Corey, managed to alert authorities while hiding in a closet until police arrived at the scene. After 3 months of investigation, Texas troopers arrested the victim's son and daughter-in-law, having uncovered months' worth of text messages which detailed the assassination plan. Detectives also learned that on the night of the attack, Shaughnessy had remotely turned off the alarm system at his parents' house, allowing the gunman to enter undetected. Multiple witnesses interviewed by detectives revealed Shaughnessy had told them he would be receiving $1 million after his parents died. During the investigation, a confidential informant testified he'd been offered $10,000 to kill Theodore and Corey Shaughnessy. The hired killers, Johnny Leon and Arion Smith, were also arrested in relation to the murder and attempted murder. In April of 2021, all 3 men were found guilty and sentenced to 35 years in prison. Though Edison was arrested at the same time as her husband, she was only indicted on a felony conspiracy charge 4 years after the murder. As of the latest updates, her trial was still ongoing. Number 9. Nicolette and Hardis Lotta. On July the 28th of 2008, siblings Nicolette and Hardis Lotta murdered their parents, Johan and Reiki, at their home in Dunbar, South Africa. Matthew Naidu, Nicolette's 22-year-old boyfriend, also participated in the crime. Nicolette, who was 26 at the time of the murders, called 911 after she allegedly arrived at her parents' home and discovered them lying dead in different rooms. Her brother, 20-year-old Hardis, claimed 2 intruders had barged into the house and locked him in his bedroom before murdering his parents. When police arrived at the scene, they determined that the father had been strangled with an electrical cord in his bed, only to be dragged fully naked into the corridor. His wife was stabbed multiple times and shot with a stun gun. Within a few hours, the Lotta siblings had changed their stories about what happened. They began telling police they believed God had decided their parents needed to die and that Naidu had been chosen to be God's 3rd son. They were subsequently arrested and charged in connection to their parents' death during the ensuing trial. Details about Nicolette and Naidu's relationship came to light. They'd met in 2006 when the young woman came to believe she'd been bewitched and started seeking the services of an exorcist. Naidu reportedly promised he would help her heal. In the court, the prosecution contended that the defendants had committed the murders in order to gain access to the victim's multiple properties, cars, and other assets. On March the 13th of 2012, all 3 were found guilty. While Nicolette was sentenced to 12 years in prison, her brother got a laxer sentence of 10 years. Naidu, believed to be the mastermind behind the murder plot, received 2 life sentences, but would be eligible for parole after spending a minimum of 25 years behind bars. The Lotta siblings have since been released. Number 8. Todd Stephen Warner. On October the 27th of 2019, Frank and Joyanne Warner, both 73, were violently attacked by their son, Todd, at their home in Warren County, New Jersey. The couple's lifeless bodies were discovered by their daughter, who'd been concerned about their well-being after not hearing from them. Todd, who still lived with his parents at the age of 51, had already left the residence when his sister arrived, taking with him his father's vehicle. Autopsies revealed the elderly couple had been beaten with both a wood and aluminium bat, stabbed multiple times, and had their heads covered in plastic bags in an attempt to suffocate them. Todd drove to a casino in Pennsylvania, where he used his father's credit card to play blackjack. After the police subsequently arrested him, he willingly confessed to the murders, describing the crimes in great detail. He was sentenced to 2 36-year prison terms, 1 for each murder, which were ordered to be served concurrently without the possibility of early release. He'll serve an additional 5 years for fraudulent use of a credit card. Number 7. Michelle Taylor. Florida woman Michelle Taylor allegedly set her family's St. Augustine home on fire on October the 23rd of 2018, resulted in the death of one of her children. Taylor's daughter frantically called 911, telling the operator her younger brother was locked inside the burning house. Although firefighters arrived at the scene within minutes, smoke and debris prevented them from entering the home in time to save the boy. When they eventually managed to access the building, they came upon the victim's charred remains. An investigation regarding the fire's cause was immediately launched, with experts suspecting foul play. Investigators determined that several areas of the house had been doused with gasoline prior to the fire beginning. Nearly 3 years after her son's death, 38-year-old Taylor was arrested and indicted on murder and arson charges. Detectives and prosecutors believed she'd wanted to collect on her home's insurance policy. She reportedly received over $90,000 in the wake of the blaze. Number 6. Babak Broman. 56-year-old Babak Broman, a former FBI agent, was arrested in Lafayette, California on April the 24th of 2020 for accepting bribes from Armenian organized crime groups. Authorities determined that Broman accepted intermittent payments of approximately $10,000 between January of 2015 and December 2018, adding up to $150,000 plus valuable items including a Ducati motorcycle. In exchange, Broman would provide his criminal associates with sensitive information, help them evade detection, and search certain names in law enforcement databases. Between 2010 and 2016, the man was also involved in a tax credit scam, along with the owners of a biodiesel company in which he fraudulently claimed over $1 billion from the IRS. Broman was found guilty of conspiracy, bribery of a public official, and monetary transactions in property derived from unlawful activities. Sentencing was scheduled to take place in 2023, where he stood to face a maximum of 30 years in prison for all the charges levied against him. Number 5. Thitisan Uthanafon. Dubbed Joe Ferrari because of his lavish lifestyle, Thai police chief Thitisan Uthanafon tortured a prisoner who ended up dying as a result, along with 5 of his subordinates at the Nakhon Sawan police station on August the 6th of 2021. The chief and his co-accused were caught on camera using 6 plastic bags to asphyxiate the 24-year-old victim, whom they also took turns beating. The man had been taken into custody for allegedly selling illicit substances. The corrupt officials attempted to pass his subsequent death as a drug overdose. However, after a whistleblower leaked the damning video of the torture, an internal investigation revealed Ferrari and his subordinates had been trying to extort $60,000 from the victim. When he learned he was being investigated, Ferrari went on the run. His luxurious mansion was searched, wherein police found 29 cars, including a rare Lamborghini Aventador and 4 Porsches, even though Ferrari only earned a modest monthly salary of $1,225. He was believed to have amassed his fortune by taking bribes and confiscating luxury cars before selling them at public auctions. Ferrari handed himself in 20 days later, but claimed the prisoner's death had been an accident. Though the prosecution initially intended to seek the death penalty, they ultimately decided against it. All 6 of the accused were found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. Number 4. Maria Malvero and Mariana Fonseca. 19-year-old Maria Malvero and her 23-year-old girlfriend, Mariana Fonseca, murdered hotel worker Diogo Goncalves in Portugal. Malvero was later described as the one designated to lure the victim, whom she seduced, to a private location. The couple then strangled 21-year-old Goncalves before cutting off his fingers to gain access to his cell phone and bank account. After depleting his funds, including a $77,000 inheritance, Fonseca and Malvero dismembered his body, throwing his torso into the sea but keeping his head, hands, and feet for the next several days. They would eventually discard the body parts via different cliffs across the Algarve region of Portugal. Between the 20th and 23rd of March, they logged into Goncalves' social media accounts to trick people into believing he was still alive. The victim's torso eventually washed up on dry land, with forensic evidence leading investigators right to Malvero and Fonseca. The two women confessed to the murder, telling police they'd been inspired by the TV show Dexter. Surprisingly, while Malvero was sentenced to 25 years in prison, Fonseca was only given a suspended 4-year sentence for desecrating a corpse and fraud. Number 3. Jared Eng. On January the 31st of 2019, New York man Jared Eng beat and stabbed his mother to death in order to gain access to his $11 million inheritance. The victim, 65-year-old Paula Chin, was attacked in her Manhattan apartment and ultimately died from a laceration to the neck. After committing the murder, 25-year-old Eng called his girlfriend, Jennifer Lopez, to help him clean up the crime scene and dispose of his mother's body. The pair placed the corpse in a duffel bag before transporting it to an SUV owned by the victim and drove to the family's weekend house in New Jersey. Police began investigating after Eng's brother reported their mother missing. Chin's body was discovered in a trash can at the weekend house in an advanced state of decomposition. Although Eng initially denied participating in his mother's killing, he eventually accepted a deal with the prosecution and pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 22 years to life in prison on October the 26th of 2022. Number 2. Peaches Sturgill. Florida resident Peaches Sturgill was arrested on January the 25th of 2023 for scamming an 87-year-old Holocaust survivor out of $2.8 million over the span of 4 years. Sturgill, aged 36 at the time of her arrest, met the older man, whose name wasn't disclosed, on a dating website. Before long, she began asking for loans to pay her attorney. She told him the lawyer was refusing to release funds from a settlement, but that would turn out to be just the first of hundreds of lies she told the victim. Sturgill forged documents that impersonated bank employees in order to make her deception more believable. In total, the victim wrote 62 checks to the scammer, eventually losing his life savings and apartment. Sturgill bought herself a home in a gated community, as well as a boat and several luxury cars. If convicted of her financial crimes, Sturgill could face up to 20 years in prison as punishment. Before we continue with the final listing, stay tuned afterwards if you'd like to watch our earlier release on when rich people go wrong. They sometimes tend to get greedy as well. Number 1. Benjamin Field. 29-year-old Benjamin Field, the son of a church warden, murdered a churchgoer by the name of Peter Farquhar on October the 26th of 2015 after manipulating the victim into including him in his will. Within days of being made the main beneficiary of 69-year-old Farquhar's estate, Field began spiking the victim's whiskey with illicit substances, trying to make his eventual death look like an accident. Following Farquhar's death, the schemer was set to inherit over $150,000. Throughout the period in which he regularly poisoned Farquhar, Field gaslighted the man, making him believe he was losing his mind. His death was initially declared an accident caused by acute alcohol intoxication. It was later discovered, however, that Farquhar died as a result of asphyxiation, prompting authorities to launch an investigation. Before police caught up to his scheme, however, Field attempted the same sinister plot with his 87-year-old neighbor, Anne Moore Martin. On October the 18th of 2020, he was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Peter Farquhar, but was acquitted for the attempted murder of Moore Martin. Number 7. Clara Craber. The 20-year-old daughter of an affluent New York City family was arrested in September of 2020 for participating in political riots that resulted in an estimated $100,000 in damages. The destructive riots, which originated as fairly peaceful demonstrations, had reportedly unfolded in protest to the death of Daniel Prude, who'd passed away during an encounter with police in upstate New York on March the 23rd of 2020. Clara Craber, a student at Rice University in Texas, was one of the 8 individuals taken into custody after police had intervened to break up the riots. The protesters had allegedly smashed store windows with bricks, ignited trash can fires, and plastered graffiti on various buildings, throughout the city's Upper East Side. In a notebook that was later confiscated by the authorities, Craber had expressed her desire for the United States to undergo a process of wealth redistribution. She had also detailed plans to occupy vacant luxury apartments around the city by staging break-ins with the help of locksmiths. The young woman had reportedly cited the likes of political figures such as Joseph Stalin and Leon Trotsky as the inspirations for her worldview. Following their arrest, the protesters were charged with felony rioting, in addition to other related weapons and burglary offenses. Craber became the subject of widespread criticism when the details of her arrest surfaced online. Her detractors viewed her actions as hypocritical, given the discrepancy between her ideology and her family's considerable wealth. Number 4. Lorena Daniela Aguirre. In a viral YouTube video from 2016, a Mexican teen was shown attempting to bribe police officers after she drunkenly crashed her car into multiple parked vehicles. The incident was filmed and uploaded by a man named David Villa. After the video was widely disseminated on social media, the young woman, identified as 18-year-old Lorena Daniela Aguirre, became known online as Lady 100 Pesos. The nickname was a reference to the sum of money equivalent to about $5 she'd allegedly offered to officers at the scene. On April the 21st of 2016, Aguirre had gotten behind the wheel of her Nissan Rogue while she was intoxicated. She then plowed the SUV into several cars that had been parked on the street in the city of Guanajuato. As the responding officers attempted to take the drunk driver into custody, she reportedly offered them the aforementioned sum in exchange for them letting her go. Throughout the video, Aguirre had her cash and credit cards in hand as she desperately and fruitlessly tried to persuade the police to release her. The young woman had been in a car with two male companions, one of whom was reported as being the son of a local politician. Although it wasn't made clear whether Aguirre was actually wealthy, she'd evidently attempted to convey the illusion that she had enough money to make granting her release worthwhile for the authorities. Nevertheless, she spent the night in jail and was ordered to pay a fine that was reportedly 5 times more than the amount she'd been offering to the officers. Number 5. Lucy Liu Lee and Oliver Carafa. A wealthy Instagram influencer and her boyfriend were arrested on murder charges in June of 2021 after they'd spent 3 months on the run. Lucy Liu Lee and Oliver Carafa, a couple that the media dubbed the Millennial Bonnie and Clyde, were tracked down by the authorities and apprehended in the Hungarian capital of Budapest. They were alleged to have carried out the fatal shooting of their business associate Tyler Pratt in Ontario, Canada, a few months prior. Lee and Carafa had also been accused of attempting to murder Pratt's pregnant girlfriend in the fatal altercation, which reportedly erupted during a business meeting. Although the female victim ultimately survived the gunfire, she was forced to terminate her pregnancy after being hospitalized in the incident's aftermath. Within 24 hours of the shooting, the perpetrators fled to Eastern Europe, first arriving in Carafa's native Slovakia before making their way to Hungary. It was reported that Lee belonged to a wealthy Canadian family with ties to prominent figures in the country's Liberal Party. Carafa had previously spent 5 years in prison after he'd been found guilty in connection to a fatal car accident while driving under the influence of alcohol. Number 4. Saki Sudo. In an autobiography published in 2016, Japanese millionaire Saki Nozaki boasted about how he spent roughly $26 million over his lifetime in his attempts to court a total of 4,000 women. The 77-year-old real estate mogul also reportedly wrote that his only motivation for making money was to use his wealth to aid him in his pursuit of attractive women. In 2018, Nozaki married a former adult film actress by the name of Saki Sudo. The businessman claimed that they'd first met at an airport when Sudo, who was 22 years old at the time, had helped him to his feet after he'd fallen to the ground. Nozaki had allegedly told the young woman that she would be his final romantic partner, a prediction that came to grim fruition only a few months into their marriage. On May the 24th of 2018, Nozaki was found dead at his Wakayama residence, and it was initially believed that the elderly man had passed away of natural causes. In April of 2021, however, Sudo was taken into custody on suspicion of fatally poisoning her late husband. It had emerged that the couple were eating dinner together around the time of Nozaki's death, and a toxicology report on the man's corpse indicated the presence of a lethal stimulant in his system. Upon reviewing the widowed woman's internet search history, investigators learned that she'd researched the same stimulant drug that was later linked to Nozaki's death. Sudo stood to inherit a sizable portion of the millionaire's fortune before her suspected involvement in the man's death came to light. Number 3. The Couch Family. In December of 2013, a teenager who'd killed 4 people while driving under the influence was handed down a controversially lenient punishment by a Texas judge. The fatal collision had occurred in the city of Burleson on June the 15th of that same year. Ethan Couch, aged 16, had allegedly gotten behind the wheel of a pickup while he was intoxicated. He then proceeded to speed through a residential area when he lost control of the truck and crashed into a group of people who'd been assisting another motorist who had car trouble. The accident resulted in 4 deaths and 9 injuries, and Couch was consequently indicted on 4 counts of intoxication manslaughter. During the ensuing criminal trial, the defense argued that the teen suffered from a supposed psychological condition called affluenza. Couch's legal team claimed that the boy couldn't bear the responsibility for his actions due to the fact that his affluent upbringing had led to him possessing no understanding of boundaries or consequences. Although affluenza is not a medically recognized disease, Couch's lawyers convinced Judge Gene Hudson Boyd to spare the teenager any jail time and instead sentence him to 10 years of probation. It also emerged that Couch's parents, Fred and Tonya, had had several run-ins with the law themselves prior to their son's conviction, including one instance in which they were accused of driving another car off the road. Fred, who'd made millions of dollars from his sheet metal manufacturing business, had been charged with assault in connection to a domestic abuse incident involving Tonya, whom he later divorced. Judge Boyd's decision in Ethan Couch's case sparked outrage among those who considered it to be unjustly merciful towards the teen. Couch was detained once again in December of 2015 after he'd failed to report to his probation officer. He and his mother were eventually located in the Mexican resort city of Puerto Vallarta, and the young man subsequently spent 2 years in prison. In January of 2020, he allegedly committed an additional probation violation by failing a mandatory drug test. Today's topic was requested by Skylar B. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Fattest Dallas. Before she disappeared without a trace in May of 2019, Jennifer Dallas, aged 50, had been in the midst of a contentious legal struggle with her husband Fattest. It had stemmed from the pair's divorce and the subsequent battle for the custody of their 5 children. In the mid-2000s, the couple had moved to Farmington, Connecticut, where they started their family and founded the luxury real estate development business that would eventually make them millionaires. Jennifer had reportedly alluded to the fact that her relationship with Fattest was eroding in a blog post she'd written in 2012. She officially filed for divorce in 2017, but vanished before the legal process was completed. Fattest publicly maintained his innocence in the wake of his estranged wife's disappearance. However, the real estate tycoon and his girlfriend were both taken into police custody about a month later on charges of tampering with evidence and hindering prosecution. Those charges were upgraded to capital murder and kidnapping in January of 2020. The authorities had been unable to locate Jennifer's body during their investigation. Nevertheless, they'd gathered enough evidence for prosecutors to formally inculpate Fattest in connection to his wife's disappearance and presumed murder. The real estate developer failed to report to court for an emergency bond hearing on January the 28th, and the police later found him in a catatonic state in his home after an apparent attempt to take his own life by way of carbon monoxide poisoning. He was transported to a New York City hospital where he ultimately passed away 2 days later. In a death note he'd left in his car, Fattest once more professed his innocence, writing, "I refuse to spend even an hour more in jail for something I had nothing to do with." Number 1. Ashton Sachs. In the late 1990s, Ashton Sachs was born into an affluent family from Orange County, California. His mother, Andra, had built a prosperous real estate business worth upwards of $80 million, and the 5 Sachs children therefore wanted for nothing. On February the 9th of 2014, however, 19-year-old Sachs carried out the murder of both of his parents at their multi-million-dollar mansion in San Juan Capistrano. The teen had reportedly driven 20 hours from Seattle, Washington to Southern California in order to commit the cold-blooded double homicide. Investigators later established that he'd walked through the unlocked front door of his parents' residence before fatally shooting them in their bedroom. Sachs went on to fire shots at 2 of his younger siblings. His brother was left paralyzed as a result of the attack, while his sister narrowly avoided a bullet to the head while hiding under her bed sheets. In the immediate aftermath of the incident, Sachs fully cooperated with detectives as they attempted to track down his parents' killer. The young man had reportedly attempted to confuse the investigation by giving the authorities the names of former business partners and other individuals who may have sought to harm his family. The police soon identified Sachs as a suspect due to mounting evidence against him, and he ultimately confessed less than a month after the shooting had taken place. When investigators asked him what his motive for the violent crime had been, Sachs blamed his parents for his depression and expressed his belief that he'd been their least favorite child. In October of 2016, he was sentenced to 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Thanks for watching. If you were offered $100,000 for each friend you completely removed from your social circle, how many of your friends would you oust? Let us know in the comments section below.